Today I'll be ranking my top 5 monsters from the Scooby-Doo movies. But first, I need to outline my criteria. Number 1. The monster must either have been scary or made it a threatening experience for the gang. Number 2. What they were attempting to do must have been either worthy enough to scare people away, or they must have a purpose to act with malicious intent. And finally, number 3. They must be fun to watch with a fear factor while on screen. Before I get into my rankings, there are 2 honorable mentions I'd like to address. The Phantosaur in Scooby-Doo. Legend of the Phantosaur. This dinosaur was used by Professor Svankmajer and her team as a ruse to scare away any other paleontologists or locals so that they could secretly excavate a crystallized Allosaurus that they had discovered. The first criteria is immediately completed as the Phantosaur instantly chases Scooby and Shaggy on their handcar. These animatronic dinosaurs definitely pose a threat to the gang, which is why they are being mentioned, but unfortunately the fact that the dinosaur was beaten by its own equipment drastically brought its rating down. Another reason while it's being mentioned is that it's a freaking dinosaur. Need I say more? Secondly, another honorable mention is the Griffon in Scooby-Doo, Abracadabra-Doo. This monster was, in fact, a giant mechanical puppet operated by a blimp by Marlin Merlin, so that his brother, Whirlin Merlin, would close the magic school and sell the castle. This would lead to an opportunity for Marlin to open his own magic act and gain the credit which he believed was rightfully his. In my opinion, I get the guy. Not that I would create a giant-ass Griffon, but I get him. This monster also presented a threat to the gang, and even kidnapping Velma's younger sister, Madeline Dinkley. It could destroy stuff with ease and could definitely deal some serious damage if anyone got on the wrong side of its talons, which to me makes it a decent monster. Now, to start the list off, coming in at number 5, Captain Skunkbeard and Mr. Mysterio in Scooby-Doo. Pirates Ahoy! Captain Skunkbeard's plan was to obtain a meteorite as he believed it would allow him to travel back in time. However, this was all fiction made up by Mr. Mysterio, who had in fact hypnotized eccentric billionaire Biff Wellington into believing he was the ancestor of Captain Skunkbeard. Mr. Mysterio wanted this meteorite not because of its time-traveling properties, but rather because it's made of solid gold. This duo was certainly dangerous to the gang as, first off, Mr. Mysterio had the ability to hypnotize the whole cruise ship into believing that they were a pirate crew except for the gang and Fred's dad. This could very well pose a threat to the gang if Mysterio decided to turn the crowd against them. Another danger these two posed to the gang was that they are literal pirates, whether they know that or not. They all get tied up and they have actual weapons which could absolutely deal some serious damage. Overall, Captain Skunkbeard and Mr. Mysterio definitely deserve to be on this list because they fit all the criteria. Their story is interesting and worthy of a movie as well as creating a threat for Scooby and the gang. However, it's not as dangerous as some of the others on this list. Next up, we have number 4, Morgan Moonscar and the other zombies in from Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. What places these monsters on this list is that they were in fact real. Morgan Moonscar, a pirate, invaded this island in order to bury his treasure. But to make sure none of the previous inhabitants who worshipped the cat god from seeing where they buried it, they drove out the settlers into the bayou where they were in turn slaughtered by alligators. After being killed by the only 2 survivors, their life force was absorbed and they were bound to wander the island as the undead, hoping that coming victims would not end the same way he and his crew did. When Mystery Inc. arrived on the island, he tried to ward them off using ghostwriting on the kitchen walls. Whilst they were on the same side as the gang and even tried helping them, which goes against criteria 1, they definitely intimidated the gang enough to scare them, and the fact that they were actual zombies again made a lasting impact on the gang. The idea that they are also on the island away from civilization and with no trustworthy way to leave adds to the fear factor as they can't simply leave if it gets too dangerous. The zombies definitely made for an entertaining movie with a decent amount of screen time, and the fact that they were actually trying to help the gang, which was an insane twist at first watch, is exactly why they are on the list. At number 3, I have placed the Ravencrofts from Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. Sarah Ravencroft is certainly the most dangerous witch the gang ever faced. Ben Ravencroft, who was Sarah's descendant, lied to the gang about her background, stating that she was a pleasant, young woman who helped many people who could not afford medical treatment and was wrongfully prosecuted as a witch. But in actuality, Sarah used her magic to terrorize the townspeople who in turn imprisoned her in her own spellbook. Ben tricked Mystery Inc. into helping him find her spellbook in order to release her, as he believed that their combined magic would make them an unstoppable force. However, this was short-lived, as upon releasing Sarah, Ben's plan was abolished due to Sarah wanting to destroy the world instead. Ben then tried to re-imprison her, but to no avail, where he ended up being trapped in an orb. This whole plot was extremely interesting and definitely worthy of a movie. Sarah had powers and the ability to deal proper damage to the gang. She was immediately hostile to the gang, where she flaunted her abilities, such as being able to animate objects like pumpkins, projectile fireballs, and flight. In general, it is placed on this list due to the immense ability and overwhelming power that Sarah seemingly had. Next up, we have number 2, the Werecats from Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. These monsters were always going to be on this list. I mean, they aren't the typical person in a mask as Skunkbeard was. Simone Lenoir and Lena Dupree, the Werecats in question, were the sole survivors when Morgan Moonscar invaded their island. This led to the two praying to their cat god for the ability to rid the island of these invaders. Whilst they gained these powers, it came with a cost. They had to absorb the souls of their victims every harvest moon to survive and sustain their immortality. They continued to do this over the next 2 centuries, as shown with the appearance of the zombies, where there is a range from Confederate soldiers to recent tourists. The two then granted Jacques, the ferryman, immortality, as they needed some to transport lured outsiders into the island. This plan is undeniably maniacal enough to be placed on this list. No one can deny that these monsters are without a doubt dangerous as well. They gain super strength and speed when in werecat form, which alone could be a reason for them to be on this list, but on top of that, they could absorb the life force out of anyone they wished, rendering them a zombie forever. This created a huge fear factor while on screen, as the gang were obviously in danger. The whole twist where the zombies turned out to be the semi-good guys and the werecats, who we initially thought were hospitable, were actually the monsters, which is why I placed them at number 2. Finally, we have number 1. I have placed this here because at the time when I first watched this movie, I was genuinely scared both for the gang and for me. If you haven't guessed by now, it is the Woodsman from Scooby-Doo. Camp Scare. Overall, this guy looks super scary alone, with green skin and bandages covering his hands and face. The Woodsman was a part of a legend where a cruel counselor who went insane after a prank by the campers. The Woodsman, who was Ranger Knudsen, planned to use dynamite along with his accomplice Babyface Barretti to destroy the dam and drain the lake. But first, he needed to scare away everyone in Camp Little Mouse too. This plan was really well laid out and provided for an entertaining film. The gang was in obvious danger, as the Woodsman was not afraid to swing his axe to the point where he might have actually been trying to kill everyone there. There was an insane amount of fear factor when he was on screen, and for that reason, I believe he is my top monster from the Scooby-Doo movies. To finish, I believe all of these were decent monsters and amazing in their own aspects. These were all based on my opinions and some faint memories, and so if you have any of your own choices or want to correct me on anything, don't be afraid to comment down below. Any suggestions for future videos would also be greatly appreciated. Thanks.